This is Damian Macy, representing the Friends of the Marshall Public Library and working on our oral history project. Today is Tuesday, September the 25th of 2015, and I'm at the library talking with Ray King. Ray did not grow up in Marshall, but he's been here for a number of years, so it's almost like home. And with that, I'll introduce you to Ray King.
Thank you very much. Where do you want me to start? At my birth?
I kind of start with your family and where you were born, what year, if you want to mention that. If not, that's okay.
I was born in San Diego, 1936. Lived in San Diego until I went in the Marine Corps, 1951. Did my tour of Korea. Came home in 53. Come out of the Marine Corps in 62. Went to work for a gravel company. Got married. Had two wonderful little girls. One of them is deceased. She died of cancer at 44 years old. When I left San Diego, I moved to Brazil, Indiana. Went to work for George Hardman's body shop in Brazil.
Ray, what brought a California resident all the way out here to the Midwest?
Good point. I came out here, actually my cousin and I came out to Indiana because we were going to the Indy 500. And we ended up staying here. My cousin married a girl from Brazil, Indiana. And I moved from Brazil to Mattoon and went to work for I'm trying to think of the name of the glass company that I went to work for in Mattoon. I married Linda Went from Effingham in Mattoon. We was together for 9 years, divorced. I worked at a Goodyear as the tire buster, as their tractor. I go out in the farms and break down the tractor tires and repair them.
And those Goodyear tires today are a little bigger even than they were back then, right?
They were huge back then. Yeah, we had to use a crane on the side of the truck, or a lift. It was a very interesting job because you had to put these chemicals in these tires. Mm-hmm. But
was that a one-man out there, or did you have some partner to help you?
Just me. That was it.
You and the crane, huh?
Me and the crane, yep. And I stayed with Goodyear for quite a few years. Then I met this gal named Linda in Mattoon. She worked for, I can't think of the name of the place. It was a lighting company there in Mattoon. And we ended up, about a year later, getting married. So I have one son. Two daughters.
What is your daughter that's living? What is her name?
Her name, the one that's lit. You know, I went way ahead of myself. I forgot my other children. Anyway, Jenny, she lives in Florida. Her name is Jenny. Yeah, she lives in Florida. George, my son, lives in Newton, where his mother lives in Newton.
That's a little closer than Florida.
He has his own business called King's Graphics in Newton. Let's see, I can step forward now.
I'm going to go back just a wee bit. Do you have any particular fond or less than fond memories of your Marine Corps experience?
You know, that's what I was going to say. I skipped that. I don't know why. I kind of enjoyed the Marine Corps. I mean, it's what you make it.
Well,
I went through boot camp in San Diego,
okay,
which was very unusual because that's where I was from. But I wanted to be a gunner on a tank. I wanted to be a machine gunner. That was one of the things I wanted to do. So I went to boot camp in San Diego, and then from San Diego, I went to Camp Pendleton in Oceanside.
That's really just kind of up the coast.
Yes, it is. About 35, 40 miles. Then I went to, from Camp Pendleton, I went to 29 Palms for schooling. And then back to Camp Pendleton for my tank training, my machine gun training. After that was all done, my DI said, you need to go home for 30 days because you're going to be shipped over. That was in 1951. They sent me to Korea. We landed in Busan. I did the first tour over there. I think it was like 16 months. Then I came back R&R and went to Yokosuka, Japan. Went to Hawaii. And home. This is all in 30 days.
My goodness. Did you, I guess, learn to, or pick up any Japanese?
Ichiban taksan, skoshi yoshi, a little.
And how about Korean? I understand that's a difficult language.
It's a hard language, but you know, people don't realize that Korea is not a jungle. A lot of people think that Korea is like Nam. No, Korea was like this. We had trees over it. I mean, it was not jungle. Which was strange because I was thinking I was going into the jungles, but no. Korea had mountains and just like it's like here. So that was a surprise. But I was at the 38th parallel. Which also was at the frozen reservoir, which we also call the Frozen Chosen. really don't like to talk a lot about it because it brings back such terrible memories, but it's something we had to do. And we did well. I left Korea in 1953. We departed. I was on the ship called the USS Phoenix. We came home, thank God, and changed my MOS. Then I was an MP for my last 16 or 18 months that I had to serve yet.
And where was that served?
In Oceanside, Camp Pendleton. You know, the strangest thing, when I keep talking about Camp Pendleton, my wife's grandfather is a Pendleton, and she's always asked me if they named Camp Pendleton after his name, but I don't know. But anyway, I had a great time in the Marine Corps. Marine Corps or any military is what you make it. You know, you've been there. If you're in boot camp and you decide you want to be a hard butt and don't want to do what you don't want to do, that's the worst thing in the world. You do as you're told to do, and you do it with a smile. You've been there, you know what I'm talking about.
It's difficult sometimes.
Yes, yes. So let's get off of that. I got out of the Marine Corps.
Can I back up just one minute?
Yes.
And you mentioned, and I don't mean to touch on any sad things, but have you been to the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C.?
No. No, but I did guard the memorial when it came to Effingham.
There was a moving wall, and it was here in Marshall at one time.
Yeah, and it was in Effingham when I was in the Marine Corps League in Effingham. I forgot to mention that. I was in Marine Corps League, which still am. Also with the VFW here in Marshall. But, yeah, in Effingham, I was a senior vice commandant in the Marine Corps League in Effingham, and I did guard the wall when it was in Effingham. Quite an experience.
It is.
And
I was not in the Marines, but it's quite an experience. And then in Washington also to see.
And it stays right here.
It does.
It stays right
an
in
emotional
the heart.
thing.
Yeah. Because you've been in combat, and it's something that never leaves you. My wife says to this day I still have nightmares, and I do. She'll say, I'll holler. One of my best friends was killed right alongside of me. And I've always thought, why God, why was it him and not me? Well, that's what happens. And you just, you lose a lot of friends. And it's hard. You never forget.
Ray, have you been able to keep in touch with some of them that were in service when you were?
I have a very good friend in Florida that was in Korea when I was there, and he come home also, thank God. But a lot of them didn't. But that happens in every war.
I think so.
And we don't understand why we come home and they didn't. And it's hard to think about that, I lost a lot of friends. It's just something you have to live with. You know, I scream all the time at night. My wife says I scream, tell him, get down, get down, get down. And that's when he was killed. But he wasn't the only one, of course, you know that.
Mm-hmm.
But the other, I'm going to go forward now.
Sure.
In 2000, this year, 2015, on the 7th of this month, you go back to Monday the 7th, which was Labor Day. Mm-hmm. The Black Tigers from this organization, that they're Marines, they're Army, they're Navy, they're just called the Black Tigers, which we have two of our gentlemen in the post, which is our, we call him Pincho, but his name is Dennis Miller. He's right here in town.
I know Dennis quite well.
And he...
and his mother.
Oh yeah, she used to cut my hair. Dennis is a great guy. We call him, his nickname is Pincho. But anyway, Dennis is part of the Black Tigers. Also, our past commander from a few years back, which is Bob Murphy out of Martinsville. He is also a Black Tiger. He is the commander of the Black Tigers. Well, he asked me a couple of months ago, he says, you said your uniform you still have a uniform, and I said yes. And he says, does it fit you? And I said, absolutely, like a glove. And he says, we would like for you to do something for us. We'd like for you to put your uniform on. Is it a dress blues? I said, yes, it's my dress blues. Actually, I have two uniforms, the greens and my dress blues. But he says, can you have that uniform on and be up at the monuments in town here at about 6 o'clock? And I said, yeah. So I did. And the sergeant that does all the commands and everything, he called me over and he says, Marine, come here. I walked over to him and I said, yes, sir, what could I do? And he says, we're going to use you. And I said, oh, I did not know that. So anyway, he says, you remember the 5 from Paris that was killed? And I said, yes. And he says, this is a picture of the 5. He says, what I want you to do is when I say Marine, I want you to come to me. We're already going to have the flag here. And I want you to present to me the picture of the 5 that was killed. I said, okay. So I did it. When he called me, he just said, Marine. And I was there. Then he looks at me and he gives me a smile, and I put the picture in his hands and he stuck them in the flag. And he told me to take 2 steps back, and there's where the family of the Gold family that was the parents of the missing, of the ones that were killed, were standing in a line, and I was right beside them, and I had no idea what was happening. I thought I was just there to stand until it was over. And then all of a sudden, the Black Tigers come down and they started handing these certificates in beautiful plaques. They get to me and they stop. They turn towards me and they hand me. And I'm thinking, why? Anyway, they hand this to me. And they told me to face, and I was facing towards the people out on the road there. And I held it like so. And all the time I'm holding it and people are looking at it, I'm thinking, why am I getting this? A few minutes later, they're coming down the line again, and they pass out everybody, and they come in front of me, turn, and hand me another one. And I'm thinking, something's wrong. I don't know what's going on. Because I couldn't, actually, I can't read that good anyway because of my stroke. And I got the second one. When it was all over, the sergeant walks over, gets in front of me and says, "Present arm," and we saluted each other. And he said, I said, "Sergeant," I said, "Why? Why this?" He says, "Because you're special." And I'll never forget that.
That's quite an honor.
It is an honor. It's an honor to get anything from the Black Tigers at all. Oh. They are a great, great team. If I was a young man, I would love to, in better shape, I would love to be a Black Tiger. But it hits home. I took them home and hung them on my wall.
Oh, sure.
And that's where they're at with all my other stuff from the Marine Corps and my ribbons and my medals. And
Ray, it's surprising the uniform fit, because most of us, my jacket I might get on, but I don't think the pants would go around me.
Mine fits like a glove. Matter of fact, I'll show you a picture. I'm pretty proud of it. Well, there it was. There I am. But I get it clear. We'll take all that away. Maybe going the wrong way. No, there it is. That's me.
Oh, that's a great picture.
Yeah. So you see how good it fits.
It looks very official. Now, Ray, did Edie, when she called you to come for the interview, did she say anything about a picture?
I think I gave her a picture.
Okay. I was going to say, if you hadn't, that would be an ideal one, and I think she could take it off of your camera.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's great.
But the picture that she took wasn't this one, I don't believe. But this is a nice picture.
Oh, yeah. And that uniform, you're right, does fit well.
Yep. Except that if you look down here at the sleeves, it's a little bit longer. I shrunk a little.
We all shrink.
Other than that, it fits my shoulders, it fits me, my pants fit. I mean, it.
Well, it sounds like you had a very interesting experience there, and also a lot of military memories.
Yeah, a lot.
Now, you're active, you said, in the VFW here?
Yes. I just stepped down from being the junior vice commander. I was junior vice commander here for about 5 or 6 terms. And my good friend Bob Brown, you know him.
Oh, sure.
He was the commander six times, I think, yeah. But yeah, Bob's a good man. He's one of the reasons I joined the VFW here in town, was because I've known Bob for a long time. Well, since I've been here. Actually, he's my wife's insurance man. So, and then there's a bunch of great guys. We got our new commander now is Eric Snedeker. Mm-hmm. You probably know him. And someone's going to say to you down the years, you know Ray King, and you're going to say yes, I do. And you know, it's a good feeling because I'm not from here, but you know, I've been greeted like I'm from Marshall.
Good.
And got a lot of friends, mostly in the VFW and American Legion. But Marshall's a great town. It's I like a small town. From being from great big city of like San Diego, this is beautiful. No trains stopping you. I lived in Terre Haute for a very short time, and I hated it. Not that I hated Indiana, but I didn't like Terre Haute. But
I grew up here in Marshall. Went to school first 4 years. We moved to Martinsville, as I mentioned earlier. And my wife is from Marshall. We both have roots here, obviously.
Yes.
We lived in the Chicago suburbs for about 15 years. We were glad to get back to Marshall. Don't miss that traffic a bit.
One of my other best friends in VFW is Fred Dykstra.
I don't know him. I heard his name.
Great. He's a Marine. He's a great guy. Fred Dykstra. Yes. He's a great guy. Actually, they're all great guys, you know. We're all brothers, just like you and I. We're brothers. And when we meet, oh, speaking about meeting, my wife and I went to St. Louis to go up in the Arch.
Yeah. It's quite an experience.
I'm standing there in line, and this guy keeps looking at me. And I kept looking at him. You know, I'd lift my head and look at him, and he'd look at me. About 10 minutes later, he walks down towards me, and he says, I know you from somewhere, and it's just killing me. And I said, yeah, me too. And he says to me, he says, what school did you go to? And I told him, no, he said, that's not it. But he said, listen, your voice is very familiar. Anyway, he was over in Korea.
Wow.
And he was standing in line to go up on the arch like we were. And we talked. And he is no longer with us, but he lived in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Oh, my.
And he passed probably 4 or 5 years ago. And it was just strange. He says, even with my beard, which I've had for so many years, he said there was just something of the presence about me that he knew that I was a Marine. He knew I wasn't in uniform. I didn't even have a cap on or anything. He just knew the presence that I was a Marine. And he said, when he asked me about the school and everything, then he asked me about the military, and I said I was in the Marine Corps, and he said, that's it. He said, you was in Korea, wasn't you? And I said, yes. He says, I was too. And he says, we had a conversation over there one evening, you and I remembered it. And it was all about farming and stuff like that. Well, I was a city boy, San Diego. But I remembered the conversation. They had a cotton plantation or something in that order.
Was he from Mississippi at the time? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of cotton growing down there.
He went back home. He was from Biloxi. But, oh, and I failed to mention he was a black boy. But he was, and his name was Willie Tucker. I'll never forget that. It just popped into my head. Yeah, Willie Tucker.
After your meeting in St. Louis, did you continue to keep in touch with him then?
Yeah, we did. I did for quite a while. We used to talk over the computer. And that was before I had my stroke. But after I had my stroke, I forgot a lot of things, and I guess we just grew apart or whatever, because I couldn't get back on my computer for the long time. But I have another friend he's in Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama. He's another Marine that we talk to every now and then. He's still alive, and his name is Don. Oh, it's a hard last name. Just a minute. Eubanks. Yeah, there's an S on the end of it. Yeah, I call him Eubank, and he'd say Banks. So,
wanted to make sure you had the right letters there.
He's a nice guy. I think he's 81 or 82 right now. Not doing good, just like all of us, but you do what you got to do, you know.
Ray, you had a very interesting experience, it sounds like, in
I did.
Marines, the military, and you've kind of caught up to date with some of the things with the celebration here. But what really brought you to Marshall?
Well, like I said, I was living in Terre Haute.
Yeah.
Actually, I was living in Terre Haute, but I worked in Brazil for George Hardman's body shop. But he died 2 weeks after that I was there. This is the only man, see, I do body and paint work.
Okay.
And he does he did body and paint work, but he never wore a mask when he was painting, and he always had a cigar. And I looked at him and I said, George, how long have you been doing this? And he said, since 1926.
Oh, my goodness.
I said, you've been painting since 20. And that was when the paint was bad. And I told him, I says, you don't wear a mask when you paint.
Who?
No, don't believe in it. And he'd even go in the paint booth with a cigar lit.
Well, keeping it from an explosion.
Anyway.
That paint's volatile.
Yeah, he died. Of course. He was a nice man. He was, I'll remember him probably till forever. I mean, he just was a super person. And he shouldn't have had to die, but he didn't take care of himself. So when he died, of course, they was closing the body shop down, but you know, I've watched so many die. Watched my dad die. I watched my mother die. My brother. Friends in the service. Even friends right here in town. Well, I'm a neighbor of Don Stanfield, and I really liked him. Great guy.
His sister and I were classmates.
Yeah.
And I knew him when he was about that high.
Yeah. He was a nice guy. Last time I seen Don was in a nursing home. I went to visit him. And his wife told me that he had a heart attack, and when they gave him this shot, it paralyzed him. He could never walk again. So when I seen him, he was in a wheelchair in a nursing home. I got a lot of friends here. I got, like, you're my friend.
I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you. I got all my brothers and the veterans, the VFW and the Legion and around town. One of my very best friends in this town, and you probably know him, Tim Riggs.
Not real well. I know who he is.
His brother, Jim Riggs, and his other brother, Tom. Tom and Tim are identical twins. The day I met Tim, we just hit it off like you wouldn't believe. And he's the son that I don't have. Because Tim has done everything he can, his power that he could do for me. He's taken me to the hospital.
Great.
He's brought me back from the hospital. I hurt my back a while back, and we made 4 trips. We made 4 trips to Carmel, Indiana, to the Spine Institute. He drove me there every time we had the appointment before my surgery. He stayed there while I was having my surgery. I just love him to death. I mean, there's nothing he wouldn't do for me or I wouldn't do for him.
I think that's a part of the small town atmosphere too. The people look after each other.
Yeah, I knew his dad, Jim. He was in Korea, but he was Army. Yeah. But Jim was a good man. He passed. I was on the funeral detail before I hurt my back. I can't be on the funeral detail anymore. I went ahead of, can we get rid of that? I went ahead of myself. I was on the funeral detail for quite a while. Also Bob Brown, he's still on it. Mm-hmm. And one winter, and it's been 4 or 5 years ago, we left the mortuary, or the cemetery, what do you call it? Funeral home. And I was walking across the road to go to the truck. I was with Bob Brown. We was getting ready to go out to the cemetery. And I was right behind his truck, and I put my one foot up on the curb, and then I slipped. And I fell back, and I broke my neck on the back of Bob's truck. Ooh. So, as you see the scar on my neck, they cut my throat open and went through and put a bone back in my neck.
Wow.
I haven't been on the funeral detail since. I was the one doing the taps. But, like I said, Bob Brown is still there. Bob's in his 82, I think.
You're about right.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Go. But I've got a lot of good friends in this town. Yeah, I don't have any friends in San Diego. They're all gone.
Do you still have some relatives living out there?
My brother lives in El Cajon, California, which is San Diego
suburb.
He's in the he's in a nursing home. He has diabetes very bad. Mm-mm. And he's lost toes. They've operated on his feet, and he's blind, and he's also a Korean veteran. He was in Korea a year before I got there, and never located him. I'm going to get that. Never located him. Tried to, because he was Army. He was in the 7th Army Division, and never could find him. Couldn't find him because he was a prisoner of war.
Oh my.
And there's something else too that I forgot, but it just came to me. When he was a POW, it wasn't in Korea. He was captured in Korea. But you know where he done his prison time? Russia.
Really?
Yes, sir. Russia. They took him from Korea to Russia. That's what he told me. And they didn't treat him very well at all. My brother will not talk about the military to nobody but me.
I know.
He won't.
That's true of a lot of.
If anybody starts talking, he hasn't joined the VFW ever because he don't want to talk about it. And that's one of the things that we do when we first join the VFW is we talk about our experience. Well, when my brother was released and he came home, I was still overseas when he came home. He was in the first prisoners exchange.
Oh.
In the stories that he told me, and he has told nobody else, never has, and he told me, he says, I don't want you to tell anybody these stories. He says, it's because they can't fathom what, they won't believe the things that happened unless you're a military personnel.
I guess, though, I raised the question, right, just like we're talking here, oral history. That could mean a lot if some of those things were written down.
Well, it will be.
I was going to say, have you ever considered going maybe against his wishes, but some of those things should be documented?
Exactly, because people did not know that Russia
That's right.
Russia was involved in the Korean War.
Yeah.
So was China. People don't know that. We killed more Chinese in Korea than we killed Koreans. Now, think about it. Here I am, a gunner on a tank. How many do you think? Sons and fathers and uncles and nephews that we mowed down. Was you overseas?
No.
Oh, you're lucky. You're lucky.
But I know it's something that we really just can't comprehend, I don't think. That's why I was really kind of pursuing the question of, had you thought about putting it in black and white or conveying it onto someone?
They should know.
Tape.
Absolutely should know that we fought Russians, we fought Chinese, we fought more Chinese than we did Koreans.
Because it is a part of our history.
It is, definitely. And just like, my brother told me all this stuff. He says, I keep asking him why he never joined the VFW, and he finally told me, he says, I don't like to talk about the war. He was beat something fierce. He says, I don't like to talk about the war. I don't like to talk about Korea. He says, it's a part of my life that I want to forget. And he'll only talk to me. He would not talk to anybody.
Wow.
If a guy, he ran into a guy in San Diego that was in the Army, he would avoid him because he didn't want to talk about it. Yeah. They'd say, hey, Bob, how's it going? And he'd just, like you said,
Go the other way, huh?
to this day, the only person he will talk to about is me. Because he knows I was in Korea too. And he knows.
He knows you can relate to the situation.
Yeah. I was listening to Putin last night. And I'm thinking, is this is this real? I mean, and then this morning I'm listening to the one from England that is, and I kind of enjoyed what he, you know, I mean, of course they're on our side.
Blair, yeah.
And I listened to him very carefully, and what he was saying I know was true.
Yeah.
What Putin was saying is what he wanted us to hear. So, and I know, I don't think Russia would ever be on our allies. I don't.
I don't think so either.
No. England, yes, been for a long time, but when they mentioned to Putin yesterday about Trump, I just almost cracked up because he's met Trump.
And you know, Ray, I'm not going to get into it. I just absolutely hate politics.
I do too.
And I don't know, things are such a turmoil right now.
You know what? Here's the thing that hurts me more than anything. This really hurts me, is our United States is gone so far down, it's never going to come back up, I don't believe.
If so, it's going to take a long time.
I won't be around to see it, so
I won't either.
I don't care. But our present president, in my opinion, has ruined the United States.
Sure has. I won't disagree with you a bit.
I can never understand why he become our president. Until over the years, I heard things, different things. I've seen different things. And one of the things that I seen after he was our president, he was getting on Air Force One, and he had, I could see it under his arm, the Koran. Now, he had no American flag on his lapel till the second term. When the second term, he had that American flag on his lapel. I've never trusted him.
It was the same when he had a speech. There were not flags in
No, sir.
in the corridor where he was talking, but later then, you did see the flags.
Yeah, but you're right. I don't think he... and here's another thing. Do you know, and I imagine you do know, that on his second election, they didn't even give our troops overseas the chance to have a absent vote. They didn't give them that chance.
Yeah, I did hear that.
Yeah. Well, you can talk to a lot of the veterans that's coming home. They did not get the chance to vote. He'd have never been our president again. The
And I
second
guess
term.
your service in the military, and you sure appreciate it. What is your opinion of this whole ISIS and the Afghanistan-Iran mess?
Oh my goodness sakes, I cannot believe that our government has let it go this far. Do you know ISIS is here?
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of people that don't believe they're here. Certainly they're here. They've got camps here. So why are they here? Why did our government let them get here?
And they're growing, too, in numbers as they're here.
And they're brainwashing our young ones. They're literally brainwashing them. It's one of the things my brother went through was, and he wouldn't even talk about it, was how they did it. You know, you heard of the water drops, you know. That's for hours drop. But anyway, yeah, ISIS is bad. When they take, just because a person is a Christian, I'm a Christian, you're a Christian, and they grab them by their hair and slice their throats because they won't become their what they call their Christianity, and they have no Christianity.
I read an article just last week about Kabul, and there were 60,000 Christians in there in 2010. Now there are 0.
Can you imagine that?
And they had the choice to, 1, become Islam, number 2, to pay a horrendous tax, or 3, get out of the country, and if not, they would be executed.
And they were. But a lot of them got out.
What a choice.
Oh, what kind of a choice is that? I'll tell you what, getting into ISIS, we had the opportunity with our military at the time to wipe ISIS out. But our president eliminated most of our Navy and most of our military. We've got the smallest military in the entire world right now. Do you know who's got the largest?
It's Russia, isn't it?
And China. They've let their people starve to death to have their armies. Literally. So they could keep this. I'll tell you what, my feelings of this right now is if it come to a war, you can forget the United States. It won't be in existence. No. And we were a great country. The youngest country in the world, and we were so respected.
But right now, the leader of Iran has said, down with the United States.
Yeah.
But yet we give them billions.
Billions every year. Do you understand that?
No.
I do. You know why? Obama.
Well, yeah.
Here's my philosophy on Obama, okay? Obama, can't stand him for one thing. Obama is not an American citizen. He was not born, and this is a true story. This is personally, I met Obama's nephew. This is a personal story from him to me. And I can tell you exactly where he works. He works in the hospital where I had my surgery. He's a male nurse, and he come in and we talked about it because I told him when he told me his name was Obama.
It is.
I said, "You're related?" He says, reluctantly, "Yes."
Wow.
He told me Obama was born in Kenya. He said, "I'm going to tell you the gospel truth." His grandmother said it on the TV many when he was being elected, that he was born in Kenya. His uncle said he was born in Kenya. He's never produced a birth certificate where he was born in Hawaii because he was not born in Hawaii. Now, I have a friend of mine that has a tape, and if I can get it, I want you to listen to this. Obama, now I seen the tape and I watched it, I sent it back to him, and I should have copied it. Obama is standing in front of this entire audience, and this is what he says. They looked at him. He looked at the audience and kind of smiled, and he says, "You people asked for a change, and you got it."
That's right.
And he says, "I was not born in the United States. I am from Kenya and live with it." And if I can get a hold of my friend, get a hold of him and have him send me that, I'd love for you to watch it.
I had heard something, and maybe it was just someone that had seen a similar tape or something, but I had heard that many times also. And I guess, you know,
He admits that he's from Kenya.
this whole world situation is such turmoil.
I know.
My wife said a while back, "You know what, I'm glad I'm as old as I am, because I don't want to have to worry and put up with what's headed down the pike in the
That's
future."
exactly right.
It's
I'm
shaky.
telling you, our United States won't be around.
It's scary, really scary.
When they let ISIS over here, and I have no idea how many's here, but they're brainwashing our kids.
Of course, now they're going to let in thousands from the Pakistan refugees.
The United States can't take care of who's here. They can't take care of us. Do you know, I had to go have this back surgery. I went to the VA. The VA told me, Ray, we're trying to get you in a hospital, but our hospitals are so full. We can't get you in. We can't get you in Indy. We can't get you in St. Louis. To the VA, they're full. We can't get you in Mayo. In where is that at? I can't even remember where it's
Mayo's in St. Louis, I believe. Or are you talking about the one in Minnesota?
Minnesota.
Yeah, they've got a branch, I think.
And they told me, you have private insurance. I said yes. They says I do, which I have Humana.
Fortunate.
I have Humana, and I have the Medicare or Medicaid or whatever. But they said if you can find a hospital, a civilian hospital that will do your surgery, what they don't pay, we will pay. I said, okay. So I was watching TV the day after I was up at Danville, and I seen this ad from Spine Institute in Carmel, Indiana. I called them. Can you come up? I said, well, it's a long drive, but yes. And that's when Tim come into the picture. He's always taken me. So anyway, we went up to Carmel, Indiana, and I talked to him, and I had a couple visits up there, and I never met the doctor yet. The day that I met the doctor, and I walked into, my appointment, I walked into his office, and he looked at me and he says, did I not just see you walk through this door? Yeah, you did. He says, I can't believe it. He said, I've seen your MRI, and he said, you shouldn't even be standing.
Huh.
I said, I walk with pain. He says, oh, no doubt.
You didn't have to convince him then, did you?
He says, I've seen your MRIs, and he says, you need surgery now. So I had my surgery. He said he was going to probably cut me about an inch. My back, I got a scar this long on my back. But he cleaned out what was bad. But anyway, I think I've done enough talking, don't you? Do you think I've used up a lot of your time?
That's fine, and that's exactly what we're here for.
Okay, well.
I've enjoyed every bit of it, Ray. I'm going to ask you one final question. If you're visiting some other country, and you say, I'm from Marshall, Illinois.
Oh, you know what?
And they said, what is that? Well, where's that? And what's that all about? What would you tell them about Marshall and why they might want to visit here?
I would tell them that Marshall is one of the friendliest communities that I've ever been in. I like the people. You're just so laid back that it's just, you can walk up and talk to anybody. A woman, a child, a man, the governor. I can walk up to I know almost every cop in this town just by speaking with them. And it's friendly. I haven't had one person that has ever given me a bad sign since I've been here in the 15 years. I mean, I was welcomed into the VFW. I just love it. I mean, I think it's where I'm staying until the Lord calls me home. You know. Well,
that's a good reference of Marshall. I think a good picture of it. I'm glad you've been well received, and I'm glad you're going to stay.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's been a delight talking to you, Ray.
Oh, thank you.
And as I say, this is not for today or tomorrow, but this is a part of our local history and our people that live here. So we're sure glad that you've shared that with us.
Well, you're so welcome, my friend.
And thanks so much, Ray. It's been a delight visiting with you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a delight visiting with you.
And
now I got a new friend.